Hi, Kelly here from Freebie Finding Mom. I'm going to go ahead and welcome in our Facebook friends. Hi, Kelly here from Freebie Finding Mom, and thank you for joining me, whether you're watching on Facebook or if you're watching on YouTube. I appreciate it. If you will give this video a like or a thumbs up, I would appreciate it as well, and let me know where you're viewing from. Today, as we do it every Friday at 1:30 Eastern Time, we chat in a session called Money Talk, where I basically kind of go over the questions that you guys have been asking on the Freebie Finding Mom Facebook page, and we just kind of go through what your comments were, and then also kind of just some of the important items that have been happening over on the blog this week. So without further ado, I want to get started because there's a lot of good stuff I get to talk about today. The first thing that I want to talk about is I hope that you were able to catch my Facebook Live that I did last evening with my friend Stephanie. And last night we talked about Young Living essential oils, and we were specifically talking about sleep issues, whether you have yourself a sleep issue, whether you have a child who maybe has some sleep issues, maybe that they're afraid of sleeping by themselves, maybe you have a husband or a significant other that is a snorer. So basically we were talking about the various sleep issues that you can have and how you can use natural remedies like essential oils to help you with those sleep issues. So if you didn't get a chance to see our Facebook Live from last night, you can check that out. I will drop the link for that video in the comments down here as soon as I'm done taping this Facebook Live. So be sure to check that out if that's helpful for you. And I want to mention, speaking of essential oils, is I got the new video out this past week on YouTube. So check out that video if you will. It's about the 4 different premium starter kits. So if you're not familiar with about essential oils, I'll take a step back because you may have, if you've watched any of my Facebook Lives, you may have heard me talk about them before. If you go to the blog, you probably have seen me do posts where we use essential oils. But if you're wondering, Kelly, why do I care what essential oils are and what are they going to do for me? So the best way I would answer that is there's probably an oil for about any issue that you have. Whether that is, anxiety, whether it's a sleep issue, whether it's allergies, whether it's an ache on your body, whether it's, like a headache or whether it's trying to lose weight, whatever the issue is, there's a high probability that Young Living either has an oil for it or you can make a remedy for it using essential oils, or they'll have a supplement or some kind of product that'll help you treat that naturally. So I started at about a little over 3 years ago using essential oils and their products, Young Living products. And the thing that really resonates with me is as a mom, it's a great way to reduce the toxins in our house. And I'm not a fan of taking a lot of medicines. And I especially am not a big fan of giving a lot of medications to my son who's 6. So if I can find a homemade or an all natural remedy to help him with whatever it is that he has, I'm going to try that first. So that's why I love oils. But I think what people don't realize is that you can save substantially when you use essential oils. So if you've caught any of my YouTube videos, you might have seen where I show you some of the calculations on how much you can save using different remedies. I'm going to come out here in the next, I hope to tape it before we go away on vacation. I want to tape a video to show you how much money you can save using the Young Living Thieves Cleaner. It's amazing. Like you can make a substantial size bottle of this all-purpose cleaner for under $1. So, and it's all natural. And even though like Stephanie and I were chatting about last night, a lot of these cleaners in stores will say that they're all natural or are, chemical free, and they're not always, and more often than not, they're not. So I'll show you in a future video how you can purchase a Thieves cleaner and then you dilute it out. So basically that one very highly concentrated cleaner becomes many, many, many bottles of an all-purpose cleaner for you that has no toxins or any synthetic dyes, anything in it that would be harmful to you or your family or your pets for that matter. Okay, so that's kind of a little bit about I would tell you about essential oils. It's really just a natural way to get rid of a lot of toxins in your house and just treat a lot of different ailments for your family. But in the video that I put up on YouTube that I'm going to drop a link to down here in the comments, in that video, I just highlight the 4 different kits. I think people maybe don't realize there's 4 different kit options that you can pick up. And a lot of people like myself start with the essential oil option where you get the diffuser, but you can also pick up the makeup kit, which I'm excited. I'm going to order this month. Even though I use a lot of the makeup now, I don't have the actual kit because I didn't have it at the time. And there's 2 other kits. There's a Thieves Cleaner Kit. So if you're interested just in learning how to clean in your house using non-toxic products, you might want to look at that kit. And then there's a 4th one that's for energy. Like if you find that you need more energy during the day, check out the Ningxia Red Kit. So if you have any questions about any of these, I don't want to take up too much of your time. By all means, comment down below. I'll be happy to be in touch with you, or you can always direct message me if that works best for you, or you can email me too. So anyways, like I said, I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but if you have any interest in essential oils or like natural remedies like that, or getting rid of toxins in your house, message me. I'd be more than happy to help you. Okay, so now let's talk about your finance questions from this past week. So, okay, so the first question I want to chat about is from Patty, and Patty said that she's thinking of buying a food saver, and because she wanted to use it for freezer meal cooking, but she wanted to know if you really save much money when you use the food saver. And you guys were great as always, giving awesome feedback and sharing your insights on your experiences using food savers. And for instance, Kelly had said that she uses it mostly for hamburger bundles. So she buys like the larger hamburger bundles from Sam's Club, I believe she said. Yep. And she said it saves her so much time and they waste a lot less. And so she uses the food saver for that. And she said she's just looking for more ways to use the food saver. And we'll get into a few other of your comments down below, but it seems like a lot of you guys love it for meat. So I'm going to look into that actually, because we do consume quite a lot of meat, especially here in the summer with grilling and that sort of thing. Okay, and the next comment came from Heather, and Heather said that she doesn't have a food saver, but her mom does. And she said even with the cost of bags, her mom feels that she still saves money. She uses it, again, mostly for sealing meats. She'll buy a large bundle and then portion them out into more meal-sized portions. And then she said sometimes also if she has extra fruits or veggies that she needs to use up, she will use the food saver for that as well. Catherine said that, oh, Catherine, when I read yours, I was like, I bet you do love your food saver. She said her husband is a hunter and fisherman, so she couldn't live without it. She uses her food saver, it sounds like, quite a bit. She said that she's never had any issue with any freezer burn or anything, which is nice to know, Catherine, because that is something that just drives you crazy. You know, like if you feel like you have something in the freezer, you pull it out and it's just coated with ice. But she's never had that experience when she used it with her food saver. And she said that she uses it, again, when she buys things in bulk and just divides the portions out. And Catherine gave the tip that she tries to buy the bags even for this food saver in bulk. So that's a good idea. And then Adrian, I loved your suggestion because it reminded me, I've done this on numerous things. I've not purchased a food saver yet, but I've done this, your recommendation on several things. She is saying that the food saver is awesome. She said, sign up for the Bed Bath & Beyond coupons because then you'll get your 20% off coupon to go buy your food saver. So that's a great way to pick one up. And I love that tip. Thank you, Adrian. I used to use the 20% off coupons all the time, and I would get the K-Cups for my husband for the Keurig. I don't drink coffee, but my husband drinks, I guess less now, but massive amounts at one time of coffee. So I would get the 20% off Bed Bath & Beyond coupon. But now that we go to BJ's Wholesale Club, I get a better deal there, even after the coupon of Bed Bath. But anyways, if you want to pick up a food saver, consider getting that Bed Bath & Beyond coupon and saving 20%. Thanks for that suggestion, Adrian. And then Jennifer said that she's had her food saver for years. She said that, or she had her food saver for years when they had an upright freezer. She said that she used to buy chicken breast and chicken thighs and ground beef, and in bulk, it sounded like, and then it was on when it was on sale. And so they used their food saver for that. And she said they also used to raise pigs. So they would use their food saver when they would do their butchering and to freeze the meat. And she said she feels it's just a great way to save a lot of money, especially if you eat a lot of meat. But back to your question, Patty. So yes, the food saver, we have a lot of people who seem like love their food saver and are saving real money with it. A lot of times it seems like you're using a lot for meats, but you can obviously use it for freezer cooking just as well. I would recommend go to Pinterest. There is a slew of freezer meal ideas there if you need some freezer meal ideas. If you want to purchase a book, I'm sure there are tons of ebooks on Amazon. You can just type in the subject for freezer meal cooking, and I'm sure you'll get inundated with loads of great ideas. But thank you for your question, Patty. I appreciate it. Okay, the next question we have came from Kim. And Kim says, she asked the question, does gardening save you money? Okay, so Maddie, thank you, Maddie. You gave a great response, actually. I'll get to Maddie's response in a second, but you know, it's funny you asked that, Kim, because I'm not a gardener by any means. I wish I was. I wish I could get more into it. Like my aunt, for instance, is tremendous at gardening and anything related to outdoors and caring for plants and flowers. But I did do a garden a year or two before my son was born. I used a raised bed and it was fun, but I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a gardener by any means. But Maddie is, clearly, because Maddie gave some great advice. She was saying that whether or not you save money, it really just depends on a lot of things. One, obviously, being the weather. She said last year where she lives, they had a lot of rain. The temperatures were very mild, so her harvest was really good. Whereas she said this year, she's had to water more, and she said the birds have found her plants. So unfortunately, it sounds like her harvest this year is not going to be as strong. But Maddie brings up the great point that, part of the motivation she does gardening is to save money, I'm sure, but also she homeschools her kids and she engages them in the gardening process. So she was saying that, it's not just to save money. She likes the kids to get involved. It helps with their problem solving and also just kind of show them, like how to have fun with their food. She finds that they eat more of those fruits and veggies when they're involved in the actual growing of them, which is great. So there's other purposes that gardening serves for her. But, and she was saying that they use a drip irrigation now, so it's not as much work for them now to care for their garden. But those are really great suggestions, Maddie. Thank you for sharing that. And then Rachel said, it really just depends whether or not gardening is going to save you money. She said, this is true. This is very true. And I saw this too, Rachel, because when I did garden, I did have like a slew of tomatoes at one time, some peppers at one time. And like Rachel's point is, if you don't have a way of preserving that produce or giving it away, then you're going to be throwing some out. And then it's very likely that you're probably not going to be saving as much money. But if you are someone, Kim, who likes to do canning or use like a freezer, like a food saver, do any freezer cooking or use your food saver, then you can really sometimes justify all the work and the expense of gardening because you are able to utilize most of what you actually produce. So it really depends on if you love gardening. And I think that's a part of it. I feel like some people, whether it's not so much how much money they'll save, it's really a passion for them. So, but if your question, Kim, is will you save money? I would say the best way to maximize your money when you're gardening is to make sure that you're able to do canning, you're able to do any sort of like a food preservation. So whether using a food saver or something like that, that's the best way to maximize your savings when it comes to gardening. Okay, and now Nikki's question, and this is the last question I want to get to. Nikki said, with Prime Day over, and with the holidays coming, she's afraid of going back into debt. She said, how do I ignore the flash sales and impulse buys? Nikki, you guys gave great insights as well. So thank you guys so much again for all your comments. Nikki, I'll share my thoughts at the very end, but you guys gave great feedback. But Veronica had said, she said, look at the stuff that you already have. Really take inventory of what you have, all the clothes, all the shoes that you don't wear, all the appliances that you don't even use. And when you see all that stuff, remember that you should be using that before you even consider upgrading. So kind of, remind yourself of what you have before you worry about buying something new. And then Noni said, put your budget in ink. She made it clear. She said, list in ink those people you have to buy gifts for and the budgeted amount that you're going to spend for each of those. And then it sounds like her recommendation is really just, hardcore budgeting. Once you know what your parameters are and how much you can spend, I find that budgeting can be very freeing. I feel like sometimes I think people think that budgeting is the opposite. It's not freeing whatsoever. But, hey, Julie, thanks so much for joining. Over on YouTube, Columbus, Ohio. I just moved from Cincinnati like a year ago. That's awesome. Buckeye. But like she was saying is, like I was saying, budgeting can be very freeing, actually. Like once these are your limitations, I can't spend above that. I feel like some of us, it's like when people say, kids actually like rules. I feel like that's true. They'd like to have some kind of, defined expectation for them. They may not like it in the moment, but when they don't have that, then I think they feel like there's something's missing. I feel the same with budgeting. I think once you have it solidified what you're allowed to spend, it kind of makes life easier, to be honest with you, and less stressful because you can't spend over a certain amount. So basically, Noni was really just saying solidify that budget, put it in ink, and don't allow yourself to go around or go outside of that budget. Rachel said, if you're married, discuss all your purchases with your husband. That might do the trick, Nikki. I mean, if you tell him you want to buy something that's on sale and he says no, that could be all you need in order to resist that purchase. Corinne, this is great advice. Corinne said the first thing to do is unsubscribe from your marketing emails. That is so true. I mean, how often do we get an email in our inbox and we're like, oh, wow, like we should, this is on sale, 40% off. I think, Ian does need new shorts, or Ian does need new socks. And I'm like, does he, maybe I need to go really see. So if those sometimes can trigger purchases for you, make sure to go ahead and delete those tempting emails. But if you're someone who can actually look at the email and they don't, motivate you to buy all the time, then that's fine. But, it sounds like, Nikki, anything that you can do to kind of minimize those impulse purchases, just unsubscribe from all of them. Most emails, you can go to the bottom of the email and click unsubscribe, and then you won't get them anymore. So that's a good piece of advice. Thank you for Corinne for that. And then Corinne said, just resist, choose to resist. Nobody's making you buy them. That's true. And then the third thing she mentioned, figure out how much you need to budget for Christmas. This is good advice. She said, figure out how much you need to budget for Christmas, and then divide that by the number of paychecks into your savings. Divide that by the number of paychecks. Have that amount deposited directly into a fund that is just for Christmas. So like Corinne's advice is really just budget for the holidays throughout the year. And so then you have that money set aside. And then going back to Noni's idea of, just again, it goes back to having a defined budget. So that's really what a lot of it comes down to. I feel like, Nikki, is making sure that you have talked to your spouse about, if you have one, what your budget is, making sure that you've diligently saved for that. And then I'll tell you one other thing after I get to Tracy's comment, my little piece of advice on that. And then Tracy said, get out of the mindset of, quote, but I'm saving so much money. Because Tracy said, you're really not saving. Like, she gives the example, for instance, you say, oh, but I saved $50, but then you're not really saving because you had to spend that, $100 to purchase the item. But we justify it a lot of times. We'll say, but we got it for, $50 off. But in reality, did you really need that item? And did you really have to be spending that $100 right now? So really, it goes back to just making sure that you can justify the purchases. They make sense for you. My advice to you, Nikki, is like everybody said, like, again, budgeting, really ask yourself questions of, do you really have to buy that? Resisting temptations by just removing yourself from the temptation, whether it be from emails, marketing emails from companies, and that sort of thing. I would also encourage you, Nikki, to think about how good you feel being debt-free. I get from your question that you're proud of it, as you should be, because it's awesome. And I would just encourage you, like, when you're tempted to buy something, think about how you feel right now not having creditors to pay off, and remind yourself of that feeling, and remind yourself that that new item that you purchase, whether it's a clothing item or something for the house or whatever it is, that wears off pretty quickly. That excitement that you have something new is going to be gone that day or the week, but it's not going to last that long. Okay. So realize that high is not going to last that long, but that bill on your credit card is still going to be there for some time. So I encourage you to go ahead. Hey, Jackie, I'm already shopping for Christmas, staying out of the stores after Thanksgiving is helpful and safe. Yes, Jackie. That's why, that's a big reason I actually do a lot of shopping online. I love shopping online, because Jackie was saying, that she has already started doing her Christmas shopping, as did I. And what's funny is I never start this early, but I did this year because of Amazon Prime Day. There were really good deals for me this year of things that I need to get for my son primarily. And I love that. I've been on like 2/3 of the way done for him, and he's the bulk of what I have to shop for. And then I like a lot of DIY gifts for other people too, which I'll actually show you some videos in the future on my DIY gift ideas. But I'm about 2/3 of the way done for him. And to your point, Jackie, I don't go to the stores that much. I mean, I know that I'll buy stuff I don't need, or afterwards I'll be like, why did I get that? Did I really need that? So again, like Corinne said, just get away from those temptations. Don't go to the stores, don't get those emails. So that's great advice, Jackie. Because you're obviously going to save money because you're not going to have that temptation right in front of you. So I hope that was helpful, Nikki. I think that was what I wanted to say. But yeah, so just, Nikki, think about how good you feel not being in debt. That's the best piece of advice I could give you, other than kind of resisting the temptation, staying out of the stores, getting away from the emails, and just kind of taking stock and what you already have, and just realizing that just because somebody has something, like your friend has somebody, a neighbor has something that you want, doesn't mean you have to have it. And what you have is probably still fine. Plus the fact that, like I said, it's like when you're on a diet, right? Like, don't put the chocolate in front of you if you're trying to lose weight or whatnot. So just remind yourself how good you feel when you've made the right choice, and you've just, you're just being responsible shoppers. So I hope that's helpful, Nikki. And let me see, did I check all my items that I'm going to chat about today? Yep, told you about essential oils, told you about our video last night, which I'll put a link to down below as soon as I hop off here. And we addressed your question. Let me see over here on YouTube. Did I miss anybody? Let's see. Nope. All good. Julie, you love the Food Saver. That's awesome. It sounds like we have quite a few people here on the Facebook page who love the Food Saver as well. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're watching this on replay, as always, leave any questions you have about finances, money, anything, money management, making money from home, whatever it is, in the comments below, or you're welcome to direct message me. That's why I do these Friday chats, because I really just want to help you, if kind of be a resource for you to understanding your finances and making the best decisions you can for you and your family. So with that said, I hope you have something fun planned this weekend, and I have to get going because I have to get to my son's camp. He is having, he's in a science camp, so he is having, like they call it, family day today. So I'm going to get going to that, and I hope you guys have something fun planned and just enjoy yourself this weekend. Thank you again for tuning in. Bye-bye.